Hello and welcome back to Break the Twitch. I'm your host, Anthony Ongaro, and this is an interview-based podcast on intentional living and lifestyle design. In each episode, I sit down with an amazing guest who shares their expertise and personal experiences in areas such as minimalism, habits, creativity, and more. In this episode, number 32, my guest is Laura Peña, a motion graphics designer and storyteller who shares empowering stories of girls from all around the world. After 13 years of living in New York, Laura recounts how she made the decision to quit her agency job to work for herself and move across the country, the role of trust in creative endeavors, and shares the synergies she experienced from being open to the possibilities. Over the past couple years, she's traveled to 21 cities in 10 different countries, capturing the voices, stories, and the dreams of girls between the ages of 13 and 19 for her project, She is the Universe, a global platform designed to amplify the voices of teenage girls of all colors, languages, and socioeconomic backgrounds around the world. From making space for creative work to taking action on big, lofty ideas and projects, this episode is absolutely sure to spark inspiration and action in your life. Finally, this podcast would not exist without listeners like you, because we rely on the wonderful member community over at breakthetwitch.com/community to make it happen. But Anthony, I hear you say, another community I have to keep up with? I'm already overwhelmed with social media as it is. Come on, this is Break the Twitch, right? Well, this community is unique. Whether you're someone that just wants to support our work with Break the Twitch, someone who wants actual community support while making intentional changes in life where family or friends may not quite understand, or if you're someone who would just like some guidance on their journey to intentionality through the 14 plus guided courses available exclusively for members, this is a great community for you. Think of it just like a buffet. Take what you want, leave the rest. No additional obligations whatsoever. It's easy peasy. You will certainly not regret taking the leap to join us. So become a member today and get immediate insider access at breakthetwitch.com/community. You better hit pause and do that now, because otherwise we're going to go ahead and start the show. It's funny that we're in Portland, actually, because you're in Portland for a little while now, but you don't live here long term. Mm-hmm. And we met for the first time at World Domination Summit.
Yes, we did.
In Portland. Mm-hmm. So here we are. What has brought you to Portland right now?
As a nomad, the only thing that I have as a constant is World Domination Summit.
Oh.
So I have my tickets. I had my tickets for the last 3 years that are now happening. And so I came for WDS.
Take me back before you started this particular more nomadic portion of your life. Mm-hmm. Take me back to New York City.
Yeah.
And what led you to New York City? Mm-hmm. And what kind of things were you doing during your time there?
So I moved to New York City in 2005. And I came from the Dominican Republic, which is where I'm from. And I came with a scholarship to go to art school. And I went to Parsons there. And, I started working. I started working for big agencies. And I felt like I had this, thing calling me to do something else. And I didn't know what it was. And I went into a deep, deep search. I was in a relationship. I was married then for 8 years. But then, I was doing all the things that you're supposed to do in life. And then I always think of it as I was going on this train, like 1,000,000 miles an hour. And then suddenly I look at the train and I look at the people and I was like, oh, these are great people, but is this where I'm supposed to be? And I look out and I see my life, there's more options out there. But all I knew all my life was this thing. This is how you're supposed to do things. There's something in Spanish that I always goes in my mind, which is, tú creces, te reproduces y mueres. That's the thing, the cycle of life.
Right.
Which means naces, creces, te reproduces y mueres. So you are born, you grow, and then you reproduce yourself. So you have babies and then you die.
Wow.
And that's life. And then I guess I'm like, no, as a rebel, I'm like, no, this is not life. So I changed everything. And because I'm a designer, I started wondering, like, if I could design my life exactly how I wanted, what will I put in it? And so, and also, what will I take out of it? And in that process, a lot of things went out. I was like, what if I just, the idea of home, like, what if I don't have a home? What does that look like? And I wanted to travel so bad. So I tried that. I put everything. First I did like a very throughout getting rid of things. It's like letting go. And I almost did it as a ritual. I will do like very feng shui style. I will go to my storage unit. Like I put everything in storage, and then I started like getting rid of things. And then I'll light a candle, and then I'll take 9 things at a time. So that was like my way of me being able to get rid of things.
9 things specifically?
9 things at a time, yeah.
Was there something?
It's like a feng shui number. And I was working with a coach that she was like a feng shui coach. So she was like trying to find ways to help me, because it was really hard to let go of things that I've been carrying for so long that mean so much to me.
Absolutely.
Like my wedding dress was there, pictures that were just like painful for me, but I was having a hard time letting them go. And also I was paying a lot of money for this storage that I'm like, what if I get rid of a lot of these things? And now I feel like I feel like it's a lot, but in my life, all I have is like maybe 10 boxes of things. And I feel like I can get rid of more. So that's in my plans to get rid of more of this.
Okay, so I have to ask questions about this.
Do it.
So during that process,
yes,
because this is a lot of what people are going through some people do it when they find out about minimalism and want to experience that and go through. And so there's this huge process of decluttering.
Yeah.
Was it fast for you? Was there a big moment where it happened, or has it been sort of more of a gradual change when that was happening?
Right. So it was not fast. So for me, when I see people trying to do that, I say, sometimes you have to take it slow, because those things sometimes mean a lot to you. And it took me about a year for me to declutter, and just get to the minimum of the things that I know I wanted to still keep. But yeah, it took a long time. And then, and then I moved to Portland, which I can tell you more about how that happened. But then I started accumulating more things. Especially, I don't buy things. Like I have very, not strict rules, but I have like things that guide me because I travel so much and I want to take everything from every country. So I know exactly, I can only buy jewelry. That's it. That's all I can buy. And magnets for my mom. That's it.
So you created like this a structure of like a rule set for your...
Right, because I travel very light. Like I travel with a backpack and with a rolly bag, and all my film equipment is there. Everything that I use for my project is with me. So I cannot put more things in it. And the rule is, like, if something goes in, something needs to go out.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I don't want to leave things that I have because they're being meticulously curated to be in this bag. They're like really, if it's in the bag, it's because I really need it.
There's something amazing about traveling or working out of a limited space because it forces you to be intentional about what goes in and out.
Yeah.
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 It's totally.
And it's not perfect. Sometimes like as I was saying, when I moved to Portland, things kind of changed a little bit, especially because I love books. And even though I got myself a Kindle, I just cannot read books on a screen.
Same.
I need to touch it. I need to like write on it. I need to like, books have personalities and they have smells. So I need that.
Yes.
So I got, and here in Portland, there's one of my favorite bookstores, and which is Powell's. And so I end up having more books than I can now. So now I have like probably 2 more boxes,
It's okay.
full of books.
I also love books. I have a hard time with the Kindle reader. I always prefer the physical book.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we've decluttered.
Yes.
We have gone from New York City to Portland. Was that the big first shift there?
Yes. I was traveling in between, and there was a period that I was not in a place. I think maybe 6 months that I was in Southeast Asia. And then I knew that I was going to come back to the US because I wanted to apply for my citizenship.
Okay.
And for that, I needed to have an address and I needed to be in a place. And I know I didn't want to go back to New York because I had this idea of something that I want to create. And I knew that New York was not the place for that because New York is a lot about, when you go to a networking event, it's like, so what are you working on? And I'm like, well, I'm working on this thing. And it's not so forgiving. It's very much of like, you have to have your things figured out. And I was in a place where I was still figuring things out. And I needed to be somewhere that it was more, that there was more flexibility and that people were doing crazy things. So I came to Portland and I saw a lot of people just like, experimenting with projects and doing something today and then something tomorrow. And I was like, I want to be in a place that I can feel that free to create.
It's interesting that you felt that and chose a location based on what you needed for the time that you were going through. That's really cool.
Yeah, but then sometimes it feels crazy. Like my entire family is in the Dominican Republic. In New York, I'm 4 hours away from them.
Right.
Here, it takes me almost a day to visit them, and I'm very close to them. So logically, it made no sense. I didn't know that many people in Portland. I knew it rained a lot. And I could have been in anywhere. Like, I had no place. I could have been anywhere, right? So making that decision was, you could think that it was hard, but it just felt right. There was no logical reason aside from, I think this could be a cool place because people are doing cool things. And maybe it's okay to do that. I'm so glad I did.
I'm curious also about the work. So you said you were a designer.
I'm an animator, motion designer. Yes.
Okay. So you're essentially doing like video work and post work in terms of designing motion graphics and different things. Okay. And so you're doing this in New York and then also in Portland.
Yeah. First, I quit my job, right? Like 2014, I quit my job and I started.
What job was that? Was that at like a company?
Yeah, so I was working at this big agency in New York City, and I was doing events. So with this company, I started traveling. I was going to India, to China, to South America, and I was like, whoa, I got this like love for travel. That's like the first time that I feel like it really dawned on me that I wanted to do more of this, right? So, but I was so miserable. I was not happy. And I don't know why I was not happy. I was just not happy. So I quit and then I started my own company. And I thought that I needed to do things a certain way. I needed to have an office to be credible, right? I needed to have, work with people and all that stuff. So I rented an office in New York, in Manhattan. And for almost a year, I did that. And I was like, my one client in that year came to my office. And I was like, one day I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, it doesn't really matter. So in that process, I went back for Christmas back to my family. And I was working in the DR. And they didn't care where I was. So then I was like, oh, okay. So then I went to South America. And they didn't care where I was. And then I started pushing it, right? And that's when I went to Southeast Asia. And I was like, we'll see if with this time difference, they will follow me. And they did. And so they've been following. It doesn't matter where I am. It's fine. I love that.
So it seems like you kind of you tested like along the way, like little bits to see if you could change that life, like design the lifestyle that you've been wanting. Yeah. And was there a point where it hit you where like, well, this will totally work? Did you remember?
Yeah, and sometimes I'm scared also, right? Like, there was a point where I was like, oh, it's working, it's fine. But there were moments where there were clients that were like, we cannot, like I lose some clients in the process, right? And that was very scary. And now, the point where I am now, it's also another place where I'm like, I have to trust. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's not. It just, that's the beauty and the craziness of being your own employer.
We talk to a lot of entrepreneurs on the show, other people that are doing different things like this, and being one ourselves, Amy and I working together on this kind of thing, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to make the things that are public facing happen that I just never expected. And just day to day of just keeping things running, half the time you're not even doing the work that you wanted to set out to do.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I can tell you, like, that describes my day today. I just been doing phone calls with people that are helping me with the project that I'm working on. But also, I love editing. I love creating stories, and that's what I want to be doing. But I have other things that I need to take care of. And also, this project it's not a client thing. So, but also I have my clients that I need to take care of. So it's all like a big balance. But it's not like a balance how people imagine it, like, and these balls are levitating in the air. It's more like, you see, it reminds me of like this, cartoons where there's like a plate that's flying in, there's another plate that's flying in, and then you have like your feet out the air. So it's like not a balance. It's just like trying to balance all of the things that are going to break at any minute. Or it feels that way anyways.
Spinning plates just constantly.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Always.
And then having more, and then at some point someone throws one at you as well.
And you try to catch it. And,
and
oh
maybe
my gosh.
we'll break, but
In your path of being more nomadic and doing more of the lifestyle design types of things, how has the way you work changed from that?
I have to be more intentional about the kind of work that I'm doing and the kind of people that I am working with. I have to be very disciplined about the work. Traveling, it looks very nice from the outside, but it requires, you have to think about so many things. You need to think about, is the internet good enough where you're going? How are you going to handle time differences when someone is emailing you in the middle of the night and you're sleeping, right? So it requires a lot of like discipline and organizing myself so things get done.
Did that take a while to get into that groove? Did you find certain things that worked really well?
So what works really well has been like getting to know myself and when I work best. And so, for example, I was reading this book and I forgot the name of the book and the author, but it was about what the best times are for you to work, and all that. And that's been so helpful because I know that and from like 10 a.m. to noon, I'm like a machine. But like from 1:30 to like 3:30, I'm out. I cannot do things with my brain. So I schedule calls at that time. So it's been a process. But I think this like knowing myself and how I work best have been very, very helpful.
Yeah. What might you recommend if someone's in more of a structured environment and they're looking to make that transition? Would you give any particular recommendations for them?
I wanted to quit my job for a long, long time, right? And I remember it was October of 2013. And I write down my resignation letter. Like I was done. And I write it down and I just like, okay, fine. It's my computer, so I didn't even print it. And then I put an alarm on my phone. And the alarm said, it was for January 16 of 2014. And the alarm said, congratulations. So, because, at that point, I should have been celebrating that I quit my job. And of course, I'm at my desk eating my lunch when the alarm goes off. And I'm at the same place, doing the same things, being the same miserable that I was. And at that moment, I was like, this will never happen if I don't make a plan. Because some people can just like jump and do the things. I'm not like that. I need a little bit more structure for me to do things. And sometimes I do jump and, like make big decisions. But this one, it was the first time that I was doing something like this. So I needed to know, I needed to backtrack and be like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I know myself enough to know that if I'm worrying about money, I'll jump into the next job. And I really wanted to have my own, try having my own thing, right? And have doing my own business. And so I needed to have like this. Okay, so I need to have at least like 3 to 4 months that I knew that it would be in my bank and I will be okay. At least rent, like the minimum. Like what's the minimum that I need to survive? And so I did the numbers. So I had the numbers for that. And I was like, okay, so for me to make that amount of money, how long do I need to be in this job? And what things did I need to cut from my life so I can, pay rent the months that I'm going to be working here, but also save money. And so I did all of that. And then I just counted backwards and I was like, I knew exactly when I was going to quit. Like I made a plan. That was my plan. My plan is like, okay, I'm going to quit here by my birthday, actually by April. I was like, that was January, right? Like by April, I'll be out. Like I'll be celebrating by my birthday. And this time it's going to happen because, and I made it a plan to just like leave this job in the best way possible. Because I didn't want to burn any bridges. And at that point, I was so miserable that I was probably going to, if I just jump and, went on my own at that moment, probably burn a lot of bridges. And I didn't want that. So yeah, I think making a plan that works for you. Like, what do you need to have peace of mind when this happens? Sometimes, and this is if you can plan it, right? Like sometimes it's life, when you're at that point, sometimes life will throw it like a curve your way and be like, oh, I got fired. Like now I really have to do it, right? That happens a lot. And I knew that if I didn't do something, I was going to get fired because I was just I was not happy.
So you kind of saw, you knew that you needed to make a change.
I knew I needed to make a change.
Putting that plan in place, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I needed that plan. I needed to know at least that I had something so I could be okay for a little bit and just experiment with things and try things out and not have the pressure of like, oh my God, I need to make money right away. Because it doesn't happen right away, Maybe you know people that happens right away, that they start something and then like millions flow there. Maybe there are people like that, but but
it sure seems like it on Instagram.
Right. Oh gosh. I was like, how did these people just like walk up one day and they just have millions of followers and everybody's throwing money at them? That's the thing. We don't see what's behind the scenes and all the things that take.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that just like I always say, it's just like take the next step. You don't have to have the whole plan figured out though. It's just like, what is that one thing that will get you closer to where you want to be tomorrow? Yes. Like your future self will thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It's so reflective of the kind of the break the twitch philosophy of like the tiny action, right?
Yes.
Just you don't have to worry about 8 steps from now.
No.
Things may change. That's the other thing. Sure, you can plan out all the steps, but by the time you take a couple, you may start going in a different direction that makes more sense.
Yeah. And I didn't know how this was going to happen, but I just needed to commit to making something happen. Just one thing. That's it. Sometimes all it takes is one thing.
So you're in Portland.
I'm in Portland.
And you're freelancing and you're working on this stuff and building your business, doing this work. And you start traveling and this kind of takes off and you're experimenting with it. So from there, how have some of your creative passions and the things that you're doing evolved since that time?
In the past few years, in this kind of search that I've been doing, which has been like a internal, trying to understand myself and trying to understand what is it that I want and what is it that hurts me, what causes me pain, right? Like, what is it that hurts me so much that I want to do something about it? And I realized that girls' issues are the thing that really, just seeing girls that don't see their own value or seeing how the media treats stories of women and girls, it just like makes me really sad and really mad. And so seeing those things, I realized that I wanted to do something with that. And I went back to the Dominican Republic in this search, and I volunteered at an after. I volunteered at an after. Yeah, you should leave that in. An after school program for girls called Mariposa, which means butterfly, and And I was, the first time that I went to this place, I just fell in love with it. And I wanted to help and I wanted to volunteer. And, I was teaching animation. And I realized that the girls have so many stories to tell that I just wanted to find ways to do that. But also, I wanted to do this was the crazy idea, right? Like, I wanted to create a mentorship program where I connect these girls that needed the most with women that are all around the world that can connect them with people and can like help them get to the next level, right? And that felt really big because I'm an animator, right? I'm like, what do I know about women's issues? I never call myself a feminist. I don't know what that is. I knew it was all about equality, but I didn't know this was linked. And I didn't know, I felt like this was a foreign thing for me. And being like creating a program like this, I didn't know where to start. So for a while I was like, okay, what do I do with this? But it's all in my head. So I was not doing anything. And then I just went and started asking, okay, so what's next? Like, what is it? Know what the big plan is, but like, what is next right now? What can I do with this? And in that process, I discovered that I just wanted to travel the world. And if I could do anything, I started thinking, like, if I could do anything, I'll just be talking to girls one-on-one and just like asking them, what's your dream? Tell me about your dream. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. And so that's how that evolves, right?
Okay.
So last year, I again put all my things in storage, right? Got rid of more things. And because I have my citizenship, because that's one of the reasons why I came back to the US, I have a new passport. And now I can travel to a lot of places that I couldn't before. And I just created a plan. I'm like doing air quotes because my plan was like, okay, I think I want to go to South America next. And I, just like went with it and started to create this thing. And this thing has been evolving since then. And it's been just telling me kind of where it wants to go. I'm following this project.
You're having these conversations and you're filming them.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the big picture of the project and how you're spending your time doing this?
So the idea is to create 111 stories. And, one of the reasons that I started this is like, I want to see the media full of like inspirational stories about girls. That's it. Like, if I can do that, like, if I can have like all of these stories go out and people be inspired by this, that's my mission is, accomplished. So that, in the process of that. And I've interviewed already 51 girls from 9 countries and 21 cities. And the idea is to go to every continent and have girls representing like from all, social and economic backgrounds. So not only girls that like the ones that I started working with, there are girls that maybe need more support financially, but like girls that maybe have everything, but also, need support. That's other kind of support. So that's it. It's all, I'm just creating stories. It's all going to YouTube and I choose the universe. And that's the name of the project. She is the universe.
She's the universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so far with season 1, it's out and it's there. And there's stories of girls from different places. And now I'm working on the second season that's coming out on October 11th, which is the Day of the Girl. And that's what I'm like hard at work now, like editing like crazy.
Focusing away, editing these things.
Yes.
Because it sounds like you have a backlog of from filming and now you're going in producing the episodes.
Exactly. Yeah. So this year I took it as my plan. This was the big plan. I was going to release an episode a week. And I was going to be traveling at the same time. I was going to be filming at the same time, traveling around the world, going to places like Iceland and the Amazon jungle, and also edit at the same time. I think that, I was very ambitious.
It's ambitious.
A little crazy. So very soon I realized that was insane, that I needed to focus on actually be very present and do one thing at a time. And that thing for me was like filming. And then, and I was like, and then this summer I'll go back and edit. And that's how I've been doing it.
How are you finding people? How are you finding girls to that with stories that you want to share?
It's just been through my networks. I've been traveling for so long. I think that every single part of my life has led me to this, right? Like the traveling and then connecting with so many people around the world has made it very easy. I just posted on Facebook and people were like, oh my God. And, like I get connected to like 15 moms or, schools. And then I can, I just connect with the girls and see if they're interested and then go from there. And I'm interviewing around maybe 5 to 6 girls at every place, around that, maybe a little more depending on the country.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's been the easiest part of this project, just finding girls.
Wow.
The hardest one was Peru. And actually it wasn't hard, but that was the first place that I was like, aside from the Dominican Republic and the US, which I know a lot of people, it was like, I don't know anybody in Peru. I don't know anything about Peru. And I didn't make any contacts. Like I got people that give me phone numbers, but nobody was answering. And I just like, I'm just going to go. And then, and I just started meeting people and started talking about the project. And people were like, oh yeah, I know someone and I know someone. And then it was great. So it's a lot of like trust that things are going to happen, which is very hard. But there's magic that happens when you travel, I think. And also some magic that happens when you're doing something that you love.
So much of doing a passion project or something that you feel maybe not called to, but you feel this like thing that you want to pursue and you just feel like it needs to be out there. And like you said, kind of the magic of travel, to me, I'm hearing it's like putting yourself out there.
Exactly. I love that. Traveling is putting yourself out there. So anything that you're doing that puts you're putting yourself out there, this magic kind of follows.
Yes. And you're putting yourself into a place you're maybe not familiar with. You're sort of vulnerable and you're saying like, okay, here I am. And I'm going to, now I'm the stranger in this place now or depending. And with that too, you combine that with this thing that you have this passion for and you have a why. And Simon Sinek, he always says start with why. His whole thing is like you lead by no, this is why. Come on, come along. And it sounds like a lot of these kind of creative energies and these things were sort of have been working synergistically for you in terms of this pathway of this coming together.
Yeah, it's pretty magical. I'm very woo-woo. Meaning, like, I believe in a lot of things. I believe that the universe has my back. One of my first books that I wrote, that I was reading, oh my God, in my English, wrote. Is that the way you say it? Okay. So it was The Alchemist. And I love the idea that the universe has your back. But also I'm skeptical sometimes. And I question everything. And I want proof. And just show me. But there are things that have no way to, they just happen. And I can tell you that they just happened to me. Like, for example, give you an example of how I know that. This is how I know I'm following the right thing, right? Because sometimes I'm doing things and I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I going to Iceland in the middle of winter? It was when I landed in Iceland, it was all white. And I knew one person. And I was like, am I crazy? Like, why is this? Like, why am I making this decision? So because the number of the number of interviews that I'm doing is 111. And that's like a spiritual number. Like it's like a number that's like and sometimes you see the clock and you're like, oh my God, it's 111. I don't know if you see that, but some people do. Or you see a number and you're like, I've seen that number like 5 times today, right? So that has been that number for me. I see it a lot. So I take it as a good sign. And so I land in Iceland and I'm like, what am I doing here? So when I get to the building that I'm staying with this woman, that was like, so someone introduced me to this woman on Facebook. And they're like, hey, she's going to Iceland. And she's like, hey, she can stay with me. I didn't know this person, right? So I'm coming to this home of this person that I don't know. And in this country that I don't know anything about, right? I usually don't do a lot of research when I go to places. And I'm really bad at geography. So I'm like, oh, this is where Iceland is. Okay, great. I'll be there tomorrow. So I get to the building, and guess what? The number of the building is 111.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So things like that keep happening to me. And I know that those are, some people might say like, oh yeah, of course, like that's just by chance. I was like, yeah, you can think that. That's fine. But I have like, it gives me some like, yee and, amazingness inside just to think that something else is planning all these things for me. I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of guiding the way in some sort of way that you get to follow along with.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm co-creating with something else.
Co-creating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to do my part too. I have to show up and be there. It's just not. It doesn't just happen. But when I do, then magical things happen.
The creative process is something that comes up on the show a lot, and something that we talk about because it's so different for people. Mm-hmm. Do you ever feel like you're running up against a wall with things like this, even when you have this deep desire to share this thing? And what is that like when you experience that? How does that manifest?
Oh, it's awful. I can tell you an example right now. So when I came back from my travels, I felt like my job was to sit down and watch the content, right? Organize the content, watch the content, see what I have, see what I need. And I keep thinking about this, and I keep talking to people. I'm in Portland because I'm going to go watch my content. And I keep talking about it. And I keep talking about it. I keep talking about it. And so that's when I was like, okay, I need to know when are the times that I work best, right? So I start reading productivity books. And then I'm like, okay, I know that. I got that down. Okay, bullet journaling now. I need to organize myself. So I started like putting things before the actual doing the work, right? Like I'm having a hard time sitting down and doing the work. And so when, it's hours and hours, each interview is about an hour, right? And I'm doing a 3-minute video. And so to watch each one of these videos, it takes me about 3 hours because I'm trying to find what is it that these girls have in common, right? Like I'm now trying to see that. And that was really hard. I haven't finished. I realized also that nobody's waiting for that and I don't have to rush it. I made myself like, in this month, I'm going to watch all of my, 51 videos, 51 hours of this thing. And I'm going to sit down and my plan at the beginning was like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch 3 videos a day, which means like 3 by 3. It's what is that, 9? Oh gosh, my math. So 9 hours. I was like, I'm going to watch videos for 9 hours and I'll be fine. No. So sometimes it's not that easy.
There's something that I love that another podcast guest this season, Charlie Gilkey.
I know Charlie.
You know Charlie.
Yeah.
So he was saying, and it was hilarious because it's so true that we don't like thrash or make a big deal about taking out the garbage. Mm-hmm. Yet it's something that we need to do. It's a thing.
It needs to be done.
It just needs to be done. But it's the things that we care most about. Mm-hmm. That we end up fighting and feeling the most resistance with.
Right.
Because of their importance.
Right.
Yeah.
But why is that?
For me, this thing has been, like, Break the Twitch to me is it's a very, very, very important thing in writing a book or doing different things like this. And I've experienced the exact same thing with this, where sometimes the task can be very simple, but I just fight and fight and fight with it. And it just feels like part of taking something from your head and putting it out into the world means it's no longer perfect in your head. And then,
gosh, yeah,
and then when
big there,
right?
Yeah,
because as long as it's up here,
oh yeah,
and doesn't exist in the material world, it is perfect.
You can say like, yeah, I'm doing a documentary, but like when I think that's it. Like, right for me is the idea of if I put that out there, people will see that I'm a failure, right? Or I will see that I was wrong, or I will see that I don't know what I'm doing, or whatever. I feel like, it doesn't have to be like that for everybody, but I guess for me, it might be that I'm still sabotaging myself because I don't want to see. Maybe I don't want to see. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's here. It's safe in my head, Nobody sees it, but I do. And I can talk about it as much as I want. It's so perfect. This thing that I'm doing, oh, so great.
And if someone questions the idea, you're like, oh, well, it's just an idea. I haven't figured out that part of it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
Totally real.
So it's an act of bravery to actually put something out there. And I love this idea that bravery is not, it's very cliche, but bravery is not a lack of fear. Actually, the definition of bravery, you have to have fear for you to be brave. Yeah. Right?
One of the biggest things on YouTube too, when I first started on YouTube, in that space, right? One of the big things, and it's gotten a lot better, but one of the big things was that comments were not well moderated and people would be pretty mean. And early on, I would get a comment and it would just like eat away at me. And immediately my brain went into, this person has the wrong idea about me. That's not who I am, who they're accusing me of being. And now I have to prove it to them. There could be 100
like good
wonderful
comments, right? Yeah.
And in that one person, all of a sudden, all of my energy just goes, Zhoo. And what's been really good, and one thing I've learned is that most often what I started doing was, if someone said something like that, this is early on, if someone said something mean or something really unpleasant and critical in a not constructive way, I love constructive criticism, but I would go to their channel, right? Because it's a YouTube account. So you go to their channel and there's never anything there. Ever.
Huh.
No one putting stuff out there on their own is ever going to leave a nasty comment on your creation because they understand.
Wow.
The worst comments I've ever gotten are all from people that have nothing out there.
Right.
And so that was a bit of a healing thing of like, I understand, we're human. We're all feeling pain. And sometimes we feel the need to just like get pain out in a way. And sometimes other people are the recipient of that unnecessarily. But, it's all part of this stuff. And so that fighting up against this stuff and putting stuff out there, I do believe is a brave act. And I do believe it's something that we can all do and we should all do in different ways. It doesn't have to be YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is part of the process of designing the life by creating things around it that like work.
Well, a few things come to mind. One is Better in the Brown, right? And this idea that, she was talking about how she doesn't take criticism of someone that's not in the arena, right? Like if you're in the arena fighting also, then we can talk. But if you're not here doing the thing, then, I'm you can say whatever you want, but I'm going to try to ignore it, right? And not let it get to me unless you are actually in the arena with me.
Totally.
And that for me is big because that changes how I perceive criticism, yeah. Because it can be devastating, right? When you're creating something that's like your baby almost, and someone comes and destroy it. You're like, but can you see all the sleepless nights? I sleep a lot. That's not true. I sleep. But all the work that goes into making something happen, right?
It's funny to go back to what you're saying about you have all your footage and now you need to go through and edit. And it's funny, it goes back to that idea of right now, when you filmed it, you moved on to the next and you got this stuff. And in your mind, that footage is like, perfect. It's good. Well, maybe not perfect, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean.
Oh gosh, now I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
All the mistakes I made, all the things that I should have done. I should have gotten footage of this other thing. I'm not telling the story completely. What was I thinking? Yeah.
One of the first bigger talks I did as because of Break the Twitch, so not because of my old job or anything. One of the first big talks I did, I had a video recording of it. And they sent it to me. And I was like, oh, this is great. I can like watch it and I can, improve and see where I went wrong. I did not watch it for like a year and a half. And I still don't think I've fully, I might have dipped into it and then gone, yeah, it just pulls right back out.
Oh, I hear you.
Because, sometimes it's facing that is like our own personal battle. And because we care is why it's so much more difficult.
Yeah. Absolutely. There was a podcast episode that came out. Someone interviewed me for another podcast, and I haven't watched it. I just can't. It'll take me some time. Probably everybody's going to, watch it, like listen to it before I do. Because, I can be my worst critic. And also I love myself a lot, but there is always that part of me that's like, you suck.
There's sometimes a healthy balance of Gary Vee talks about the clouds in the dirt of like, you have to think that you're the greatest and you just eat dirt like simultaneously.
Right. Otherwise you go really up here and then we cannot keep up with you and then we cannot relate to you, right? I feel like the people that are so high that they cannot see their own faults, they don't touch hearts. And I'm in the business of touching people's hearts. So as long as I'm still in this struggle with everybody else in a different way, because we grow, right? And things that were a struggle a year ago might be a little different for me, but still I'm growing, right? People can relate to me. Otherwise, how can we connect? How can you connect to me if I'm perfect? I'm not perfect. Please, I don't want to be perfect. I want connection. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Connection over perfection. Let's
I
coin that.
I will take
Let's coin that.
Anytime. Yeah.
This process, I know it's going to be different for everyone, but for people that are looking to create more space for their own journey here, whatever that may be, maybe let's call it their own creative process. What's a way that you might recommend or a way that you create your own space?
Yeah. A few years ago, there was a big tendency of telling everybody, you need to quit your job. I don't think that needs to happen. I think that you can do a lot just by carving a little bit of time every day. I think just like by doing something every single day, that will give you, you accumulate. It's a process, It's not like I see people, I think this is what I want to say. I see people that say like, oh, tomorrow I'll dedicate 3 hours to this project. And then tomorrow comes and you don't have 3 hours. Who has 3 hours? They just in their calendar doing nothing. We always have something to do. So I think it's just like finding like little moments and being like, okay, but being committed, right? And being like the way that this project started, when it was still in my head, right? Like it became clear what I wanted to do. And I feel like I was not moving forward. And I knew that I needed to put it in paper. I needed to see it. And I needed to be able to show it to people, right? But I was like, oh, tomorrow, I'll sit down tomorrow, a full day, and I will write this thing down. And it was not happening. Surprise, surprise. So a few things I did that, maybe they will work for other people. Giving a deadline for myself does not work for me. I need an external source of a deadline. And that has always worked for me as my clients. Like if I know that I need to deliver this day, it will happen. But when I have to put myself on a deadline, it can be embarrassing saying that because I was like, oh, what? You can now be accountable to yourself? I was like, no, I can't. I'm sorry. It just doesn't happen. So I need to find something external. And that can look like having someone to be an accountability partner. Or what I did when I was starting this process was I found a grant, like a contest that I wanted to apply for. I knew my chances were very little, but I knew that two things were going to happen with this. Is like I was going to have an outline that I was going to follow because they gave it to me, right? They have questions. So that will get me the project into paper, right? And then that gave me a deadline, something that I needed to hit. I needed to hit this by this date. And it was not something I put myself, that I made up myself because I have other things happening that were priority. So I needed to make this a priority. So that was me making a priority. And so what I did is like I committed to every day waking up at 5 a.m, which is crazy for me. I'm not a morning person.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, but I made it fun, right? Like I made it something that I wanted to do. I included that as my ritual, and I love rituals. So I would like light a candle and put an incense on and put music on and just like and then let it happen and be like paper. I was like, not computer. I was like, pen and a piece of paper, and I will draw or whatever it is that I'm going to do that day. And if I don't write anything down, it doesn't matter. I just had to show up. I will show up for like 30 minutes. And of course, they will become longer and longer, right? Like if I show up for 30 minutes, I'll be there for like 2 hours sometimes. But I needed to trick myself. That's what I do. I trick myself, and I make it in a way that sounds like, like a pleasure instead of like pain, right? And that's how it happened. Then, and I think in a week and a half, I had my thing ready for people to see. I did not get the grant, but I got something a lot better, which was like this project was finally in a physical form that I could see it and I could show it to other people instead of being perfect in my head. It was very imperfect, but it was physical and I could see it.
And you had that external factor, right?
Yeah.
I think that's hugely, I'm similar, that it really helps me. I've been able to balance it a little better as I've been going on, but
good for you. Tell me more.
Oh my gosh. But the hardest things, the most like substantial things have been driven by some element of an external deadline. And so setting that itself up. And I love what you said too about tricking yourself. This has been big for me too. I have this thing called the habit rule of half. And what happens is if I don't do something, I cut it in half and move it to the next day's list. So that, because if you start, you're probably going to just do it all. But you need to overcome the resistance of that first bit of just sitting down, getting out the pen, taking out the paper. Right. And if you feel like you're going to have to do it for 2 hours, sometimes that feels like a lot. And so even the action of just starting feels more and more difficult. And so I literally have hacked my own kind of process as well and have shared stuff like this too. It's the hilarious part is that even if you set out to do half or you don't do it again, and so you cut that in half, and eventually your run a 5K goes walk around the block, right?
Right, yeah.
Even if you step out and do that, you're probably going to walk way more than just a block. Right. But hacking your...
Yeah, you have to. You have to trick yourself.
Play a game, yeah.
It's a game, right? Just play a game with yourself. I like that.
Yeah, and I love that you were talking about kind of making it light, right? Because to me, waking up at 5 a.m. is like, ugh. That's, I'm usually up and going by 8 now. So that's like more of my morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, making it fun. I was like, I will be able to see the sunrise. That was like, I could see it in my window. It was beautiful. And then it was something that I was looking forward to. Of course, as soon as that was done, I went back to my, by 9, I'm like, oh my God, it's morning time.
We have our natural rhythms.
Yeah, so I follow that. Yeah. Just, an extreme case, wake up at 5 in the morning.
Speaking of waking up at 5 in the morning and things like that, you mentioned rituals, and I have to ask, are there any other rituals that you have that you have found beneficial that you like to share?
Yeah. It depends on the seasons, right? I do things. I'm very flexible. I used to be like, well, I didn't do all the things that I was supposed to do this morning, and that's it. I'm done. Now I'm very more like, okay, maybe I wasn't feeling it today in the same way, but I have to, even one thing, if I can do from my list of things that I want to do today will help me. But morning rituals are a big thing for me. And I do morning pages, which is, I write 3 pages of blah, 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 blah sometimes, and just like getting things out of my head. And just, do you know about morning pages?
Julie Cameron, yeah.
Yes. I really love it. I don't know why. I just found out about it like a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've been, trying this out, and it's great. It helps me process things. And then I meditate. And I've been, even if it's 10 minutes, for the past week, I've been meditating for like 20 minutes, which is like, an improvement. And it really makes a big difference. It doesn't mean that I I still sometimes feel it takes time, right? People think that they're gonna just like meditate and they'll be calm and life will be good and that's it. And it builds up, right? It takes time. But the benefits for me are that I'm less reactive, so I can pause between what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. So, for example, I'll give you an example, right? So the other day, social media, it's a crazy thing that we're all battling with because we're like, am I in? Am I out? How do I balance this? Like, especially for people that like have business online, like I cannot live without social media, right? Which is kind of true. But then, I look at it a lot, right? Like I look at Facebook, for example, a lot. Like not as much anymore, but sometimes I do, especially when I'm anxious and when I'm trying to distract myself, right? So I was in the kitchen and my phone was there and I wanted to have breakfast and I just came from meditating. So I walk past my phone. Usually I'll just take my phone and start looking at it while I'm eating, right? Mm-hmm. And so the thought came to my mind of stopping and getting the phone. But, I guess, I'm blaming meditation for this, but I walked past the phone and I saw it and I was like, whoa. And I went to have breakfast without touching my phone. And I was like, that can wait for a little bit while I eat my breakfast. And I think that the pause between doing something and thinking and doing is what, I think is really beneficial and I love about meditation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Building in that buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in Twitch territory here. We're in break the Twitch territory.
Oh, yeah.
Because, that's just one of the biggest things. I just read a study, actually, that came out, I think, about 2 weeks ago. And it said, essentially, that amongst this massive test base of people, that social media causes anxiety and stress, and we go to social media to solve it.
I love that. Of course we do, right?
To escape from the anxiety and the stress.
That's causing us. The social media is causing us stress, and then we go back to it.
Bit of a catch-22.
Yeah, there's no, how do you even,
And so creating that space like you're talking about with meditation, I've seen that for myself too in the times when I've been more consistent with meditation and just having that one little moment between the Twitch, the pick up and start, because once you start diving in, it sort of captures you, versus just that moment of pause in between the thought, the impulse, and the action to just go, I'm going to wait.
Right. And it's just like, it's like a switch in your brain that happens when you start meditating. That's what I find. It's like, it's not even, I don't even have to make an effort. Like whatever is happening here is just happening automatically. And I love that. But that, it takes practice and it takes consistency and it takes, time doing it.
Do you have any tips for people who are starting out that want to try this?
Yeah, I love Insight Timer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you know Insight Timer?
This is the second time I'm hearing about it today. So
yeah, it's amazing. It's an app. It's a free app. And they have a lot of meditations there. It's just like a hub for meditation. Yeah. And you can there's a lot of guided meditations, but also there's just a timer that you can just put like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just like listen to some soft music or water and just do it. And I think it's just like everything else, you just have to, commit to do it and do it. Maybe tomorrow you wake up and you're like, I'm just going to try this thing, just the first thing that you do in the morning before you look at your phone. Maybe you breathe, take a breath and just say thank you. That's it, for being alive, for another day. That's it. I think that pause, sometimes you don't need a lot. Sometimes you just need the pause between the waking up and going to the crazy things because you have to do a million things. That makes a big difference for me. Like sometimes I hear people that meditate for 2 hours. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. But then they're super productive because it's not about how much time you're doing things. Sometimes it's how efficient you're doing things or how how focused you really are. And if you're like have all of these things in your mind, you're going to be, the minds repeat things. So you're going to have like the same repeated thoughts. And you're going to be, it happens to me that I'm like, I don't have time. I need to wake up and start working right away, blah, 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 responding to emails. And then there's a point where I'm like, what am I doing? What was I doing? And then I'm wasting a lot of time, like just like trying to figure it out. What is it that I would have to do next and changing from one thing to the next. And then it just gets a little crazy. And then you're really not being productive at that point and just getting tired.
Well, even just what you were saying earlier about how meditation, without you having to think about it, essentially alters the twitch for you. It breaks the twitch in that moment. Mm-hmm. How powerful is that then as you go through your day, right? It doesn't feel like we have time to sit and do nothing. That's what the most common thing is, like, I don't have time to sit and do nothing. Right?
Yeah.
But you're effectively like sharpening the axe so that when you go chop down some trees, you're going to be focused on that task and you're going to just automatically be in a better place. And I don't think it's this like you're going to sit for 10 minutes and breathe and focus, and then all of a sudden you're going to be ultra productive and focused all day.
No.
Like, it's not a magic pill here, but it totally is a space-making practice, I think. And it definitely sharpens the axe for you to go do your work in other ways. Yeah.
I love the idea of like sharpening an axe, because the way I'm thinking, I'm very visual, so I'm seeing it in my head, that you can go with your axe that's like not sharpened, right? And you're like, okay, I have to start my day. I don't have time to sharpen this axe. I have no time. So you go and chop wood, and you're like chopping wood, and like the wood is now being, like it's taking you so long, right?
And you're working hard.
You're working really hard. Instead of like just pausing before you start your day, sharpening the axe, and then you go and you cut the wood.
And you're still working hard.
You're still working hard, but you're more efficient.
Yes.
Like, what's the point of cutting wood with a, how do you call that in English?
Like a dull axe.
A dull axe. Yeah, exactly.
It is something that I think everyone, regardless of religious affiliation, even if it doesn't even have to be meditation, I don't think. I think it can be prayer. It can be reflection. It can be sitting, focusing on the breath, the emptiness, whatever approach you want to take. But I think this is a pretty everywhere, global kind of opportunity that we have as we go throughout our day, especially with, again, the cultural environment that we're living in, where attention is the new currency, and so much of our capitalist progress is funded by the payment for attention.
Everybody is trying to call our attention.
Yeah, and it's like attention arbitrage. So they try to capture our attention and then divert it somewhere else towards a product or something. And so as that elevates and elevates and elevates, it's like we're just being bombarded from every angle, and we just have to kind of like find these moments to recapture some space and recapture some margin.
Yeah. And with that, I will say also play is super important as well. Just it's all the things that seem like, when we were kids, we were doing those things because that's how we grow and that's how we learn. And that's how we connect. Like, you see when people go and see a kid and they're like, oh, so cute. And the kid is, or a dog, right? And they're like, oh, it's just playing, right?
Just existing. Yeah.
It's just existing. And we lose that because we're so busy. And I have this thing now that I'm trying to practice every time that I'm like, oh, I'm so busy. I don't use the word busy. And I try not to. But when I'm like doing a lot of things, I'm like, oh, I have all these things to do. I have to remind myself that I'm choosing to do all these things. And if I don't want to do these things that I'm, I don't have to do the laundry really, that's going to be very gross, but I might just have to either go and buy another new underwear or just go commando. But, do I really have to do this thing that I'm saying that I have to do right now? Maybe not.
I mean, that's a whole perspective shift, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, you don't technically have to do that laundry. Like you don't have to. And you can choose to want to.
Yeah.
Even if it's not super fun, you can try to make it more fun.
Yeah.
You can KonMari all of it and make it all,
yes.
perfectly in the drawers and stuff.
Yep. I just think that you get to choose a lot of the things that we think that we have no control over so many things, but we get to choose a lot of it.
So you had mentioned the idea of creative trust. And I can't say that I totally know what that is or what it implies. So I'd be curious about your perspective on the concept of creative trust.
It's this idea of making something even when you don't know what it is, but actually trusting. It's like trusting the process, I will say. So maybe we're calling it something different, but it's this idea of letting the process guide you. Sometimes you start doing something and you don't know where it's going. A practice that I had for a long time was I will meditate and then I will draw something. And this thing, I started with one dot in the middle and then I'll go around it and then let it be whatever it was. And I think that taught me that sometimes we think that we want to do something and we're like so focused on this is how it should be. And the way I see that is there's so much more when we let go of what we think that things should be or the way that we think that they should be and just play and see things as experiments instead of being like this thing. It's been a hard thing for me to understand that, especially with this project, because I'm thinking that I need to know exactly what this, people ask me, so what do you want with this project? What's the end goal? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm making videos, and I have ideas of what this thing is, but I'm just letting it be. And that means maybe the project wants to be something else, The way I see this is like this project has a life of its own and I'm following it. And maybe it wants to be a documentary, but maybe it wants to be something else. And I might have an idea of what this is, but if I go at it thinking that this is what this is, I'll probably, kill this baby. Like when it's like, when you have kids, if you raise them to be the things that you want them to be, you're going to limit them so much. So with creativity and when you're creating something, it's the same thing. Like you can have an idea of what you want to do, but let it also guide you into what it wants to become. Yeah, that's how I see creative trust.
Love it. Such a sense of openness to the possibility.
Yeah, exactly. Being open.
I feel like that is so reflective of a potential just life philosophy as well. Because we tend to, I think culturally, we tend to focus on an outcome, like an expected outcome of a thing. So I'm going to go to this event. I feel like this happens with like networking events a lot. I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to pass out all my business cards. I'm going to make some sales and just drive the product home, And you go and you're so focused on my thing. I got to promote this thing that there are millions of these things, this energy and these connections happening in these conversations that are real conversations that maybe would have just happened with one or two people in the whole evening.
Right.
But this like amazing partnership that is a totally different thing and it wouldn't have quite been your push, but you're going to be totally blind to it when you hold the expectation in mind all the time. Just like, it's like blinders on a horse. And I've been there where I've trained myself to like go into stuff and be like, whoa, what's going to happen? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything can happen here.
Right. And and I've trained myself also to be like, whoever I'm supposed to meet, I'm going to meet them. And that's it. If I was supposed to meet this person, and I also have that mentality. I told you I'm very woo as well. It's like destiny brought us together. So I'm going to let go of my agenda and just be very present and just be very here. And then let, instead of trying to sell myself to people.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's a powerful thing. Letting go of expectation, showing up and seeing where things go and being open to that possibility. That's just huge. So with this project you're doing, shooting videos all over the world with girls' stories, she is the universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is a way that people can help you with this project that feels so inspired?
To get more stories out there, we need more financial support, of course, always. And so you can find everything at she'stheuniverse.org, and also sharing the stories to get the stories to more people. And everything is on the website. So she'stheuniverse.org.
Perfect. And we'll be putting links to that and some of the videos and things in the description for this and on the show notes and everything. So
okay, yeah, please email me, find my email, and let me know what you think. I would love to hear what you think about this.
So now we will have you do one of the infamous
Let's do
questions.
it. Oh, okay. This is from Jessica Chong.
Oh, Jessica, yeah.
What questions have been on your mind the last month? Ooh, how do I get to Melinda Gates? How do I collaborate with Melinda Gates? That's it. That's what's on my mind.
Okay.
I've just been reading a book from her that I think is fascinating. It's called The Moment of Lift, and it's all about women and around the world and what she's seen, and I love it. I'm just learning so much, and I'm like, yeah, this is the person. I've been thinking a lot about who do I want. I'm also very careful about who is part of this project. And so I'm like, okay, there's a few people, and Melinda Gates is in my mind right now. So yeah.
Okay, so for anyone listening, we have an amazing project that is designed and is inspiring girls all over the world to write their own stories. And so if anyone out there listening has a connection to Melinda Gates, I'm going to put it out there.
You never know, right?
Let's make this happen.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm so glad that we got the chance to connect here in Portland.
Thank you so much. This has been so fun. Thank you.